Good morning, everyone. Good morning. I'm Sue Kohler, the chair of the Third Age Committee, and I'm delighted to see so many of you here today. We also have a great number online with us. We will have time for questions after the presentation. Those of you online can put them in the chat and we'll forward them up to Dr. Gini, or should I say Professor Gini. After the presentation, we'll have a light lunch from Jimmy John's. Today, we're delighted to hear from distinguished professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Minnesota, Chris Martin, one of the Third Age members, will introduce our speaker after Margaret Fox opens us up with a prayer. Margaret, will you please lead us?
So once again, the Book of Common Worship doesn't have a standard form of prayer for Presbyterians learning about artificial intelligence. And I was really tempted to ask ChatGPT to write one for me, but I've done that with the sermon already, so I thought I would try on my own. So will you pray with me? Oh God, in the beginning you created the heavens and the earth. And the earth was without form and void, and your spirit was moving on the surface of the waters, and darkness was on the face of the deep. And on the sixth day, you created human beings in your image and your likeness, male and female, and otherwise you created us. We give you thanks, O God, for the gift of your creation and for the gifts and powers with which you have endowed humankind. Help us to use those gifts responsibly in our own acts of creation. Help us in this time to learn from Professor Gini, to learn from one another, to understand this new technology that is before us, and keep us faithful to one another and to you. In your holy name we pray. Amen. All right, I'll now welcome Third Age Committee member Chris Martin to introduce Dr. Gini.
Good morning. I have the privilege of introducing our speaker for this month, and it was really fun to get to know her, and I actually look forward to getting to know more about her. Professor Gini is a distinguished professor and a CSE distinguished professor in the Department of Engineering and Computer Science at the University of Minnesota. Now, interesting, she was born and raised, She was born and raised in Italy, where she received her doctoral degree in physics in 1972. She joined the University of Minnesota in 1982. And she has a lot of interest in computer science, and she is a world-renowned researcher, and has her interests include artificial intelligence, robotics, multi-agent coordination, and multi-robotic systems. I don't know what any of that is, but it's phenomenal. Professor Gini has been given numerous awards. As I was reading about her, there were just too many to list, but recently she was given the Presidential Award for Excellence in Science, Mathematics, and Engineering Mentoring. She received this award for the multiple ways she encourages, teaches, and helps young and old alike grow in the field of science and engineering. She's the author of many published articles. She's a requested speaker often, and where she's going to talk to us today about artificial intelligence, how it might influence our lives, and some of the good and maybe potentially concerns. So please welcome Professor Gini.
Okay, thanks for the introduction. I love to be here. I'm Italian, so you can hopefully figure out my accent. I've been here for 43 years, but I haven't lost my Italian accent, so there's not much I can do. Again, it's a pleasure to be here, and we are at kind of a strange time, even for scientists. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. Almost every day we read the newspaper and something new about AI, right? And, it's exciting because, this is an area in which we've been working for many years, but it's a little bit scary. So what I like to do today is kind of go through a few different things, tell you a little bit about AI. Everybody now knows the word AI. I remember many years ago, people are asking, what are you working on? I say, AI. I say, AI? What? Now I say AI. Everybody knows, right? To give you a little bit of sense of the history, and then talk about what are called large language models, which is kind of the technology behind ChatGPT, and so talk a little bit how they're going to impact jobs, and a little bit of consideration of technology. And I'm trying to keep a lot of time for question and discussion, because there are a lot of things I don't know myself, and none of the scientists really knows, right? So let's start with this. This is a piece from a philosopher, which is very old, and I always use when I teach AI to my students, and I go through and read it. So in general, people talk about intelligence. You try to define intelligence, and it's very hard. This philosopher talks about artificial, and say, the word artificial can be used in two senses. The word artificial is used in one sense when it is applied, for instance, to flowers, and in another sense when it's applied to light. In both cases, something is called artificial because it is fabricated. But the first usage, artificial flower, means that the thing seems to be, but really is not what it looks like. Artificial flowers are only paper. They are not flowers. But artificial light is different. It does illuminate. It's light. It is fabricated, is a substitute for natural light, but once fabricated, it is what it seems to be. And critics of AI claim that the term is used in the first sense, so artificial intelligence is fake, is not real. Supporter of AI claims that it means something genuine, not just apparent, something real. And the book, of course, is a philosopher, it's an old book, goes on and tries to discuss more. But I kind of like this way, again, of thinking. Artificial could be fake, but could also be a new reality, something new. And it's up to each of us to decide what artificial intelligence is. I kind of always like to think this way, hopefully it's a field in which there are many different opinions, right? Again, people say, oh, this is fake, this is real. What's right? Well, there's no right or wrong. There are many different ways of looking at the same things, right? So first, just to get started, I always, because I teach computer science, so I always have to get to kind of technical terms. I just go through a little bit of terms. If you have heard them, that's fine. If you haven't, just so you get a little bit of the language. So there are some programs that use some kind of computer models. They are learned by computers using learning methods. You may have heard about neural networks or deep learning. Again, those are technical terms. And the general idea is that you have a lot of examples which are labeled by humans, and then they use those to learn. Think in some sense, you are an elementary school teacher or, kindergarten teacher, and you tell the kids, this is red, you see? This flower is red. This is blue. This is yellow, right? And then the kids like, oh, that's what it means, red, blue, yellow, right? If things are marked, the computer could see something that is red and now recognize, oh, this is red, this is blue, this is yellow. So it's like, we call learning with a teacher. That's why you need human annotation. It's like the teacher that tells you what different things are. And this is a fundamental knowledge that the machine learning model needs. ChatGPT, GPT-4, again, one that was, everybody knows about, just to give a sense of the scale of the system, right? You can say, okay, I have, 100 examples, 1,000 examples, million of examples, right? Sentences which are kind of labeled, so I know and I can learn. Well, here we talk about trillions trillions of sentences, which is a number I didn't even want to write, how many zeros has. So they went on the web, pick up every piece of text they could find on the web. And that's what's used to train a system. So it's much, much larger than anything that any humans learn, right? It's huge, it's gigantic, right? And, they create those models which now do what you're seeing. So exactly how are those models working? I just give you, again, I don't want to get into any details, but just give you kind of a little bit of sense, right, what happens. This is very, very high level. So if you see a sentence, the computer can separate the individual words, and so you see the piece of text down there, each word in quote, right? This simply take words. What matters are words and the order in which the words appear in the sentence. And then at the bottom, you see some magic incantation. Those words are mapped into vectors, which are kind of collection of numbers. And then from there, things go on. I don't want to get into details, but just to show, there's a lot of hard technology behind this operation. It's not just you can read a lot of text and you learn. Fundamentally, what the models try to learn, given a sequence of words, what's the most likely next word? Try to predict what the next word should be, right? That's fundamental. And to predict, you need to have someone understand how many times, if I say I am, what's the next word likely to follow? How many times in the knowledge that collected, the word that follows says Italian as opposed to be Minnesota, right? Of course, it will come up, I'm Italian, right? Even though I lived here longer than I lived in Italy, right? So again, you try to, depending on the information you get, you try to estimate what's the most likely word. And this is done very fast, right? When you type ChatGPT, ping, gives you the answer quickly, right? So it's all encoded in a bunch of numbers that sit down in the computers. Okay, again, just to give you a very, very rough idea. So the terminology I like again always to be specific. Just if you want to get a slightly better understanding. So there are two terms that we use. One is called large language models, and one is called generative AI. And they're kind of similar, but not quite the same. So large language models really focus only on text, words. So inputs that comes from text. Again, they do all the kind of operation I was showing earlier. When you talk about generative AI, it's a little broader in the sense generative AI uses not only text, but also images, videos, audios. I'm sure you have seen computer-generated images, computer-generated videos. Again, this is called generative AI. And again, doesn't really matter too much in terminology. I wanted to make sure for anybody who's interested, there's a bit of difference. We often use the two terms, large language model, generative AI. But again, the large language models are just text, which is fine, right? We speak, we talk, we write. But we do much more, right? Because we have vision, we have images, we can create pictures, we can create videos, right? And that's what the generative AI does. Using the same kind of idea in a slightly more complex way. Now, one of the issues is, if you see pictures, the first question you have to ask yourself, is this real? Are those real or fake? Right? Those are kind of pictures from landing on the moon, so kind of many years ago. And they look real. I mean, I don't know what you think about. I've never seen, an astronaut in person. I've never been on the moon. So I don't know, but they look kind of real. Well, they're not real. They're all fake, right? So they're all generated by a program. They look very real. And that starts bringing kind of an issue which is important. How do I know when I see something if it's real or if it's fake? Right? And one more. If you look at travel guides, this is again a few examples, right? There are a lot of travel guides. When people travel, you buy a guide. And here is a collection of titles. Are those real or are they fake? And looking at them, if you just look at this, it's impossible to say. Those are all fake, right? So there are a lot of people that took advantage of this technology to generate fake books, fake articles, fake things, fake pictures. And in general, they don't say, and you don't know. So again, you buy one of those books. I don't know if they are, I don't know exactly if you can buy them, but, somebody invented, created them. They may be okay. the fact they're fake doesn't mean they're bad, but it would be nice to know. I mean, we make mistakes, right, when we write. So not everything we write is perfect. So we can make mistakes. But, knowing this person, hopefully knowledgeable, wrote this, or a program wrote this. Which one do I trust more, right? And if we know, we can decide, right? It's our choice. But if we don't know, and this appears like written by people, then it's not right? Okay, but now this is the bad part. But now, of course, this technology has also very good sides. And again, I want to make sure we have always to balance good and bad. So all the areas of science are now using those large language models. And they're helping in a lot of sciences to develop new materials, hydrogen fusion, improve matrix manipulation, new antibodies, new materials, there are groups that are really working, trying to figure out, are there any materials for the batteries? Lithium is kind of important and is kind of bottleneck in some sense for development of batteries. Doesn't mean only lithium can be used. And so there are a lot of people, material science in particular, they're really trying to come up with new compounds, new ways. And those models help because they can generate billions of materials. They can test the properties. The few that look promising, then they're generated in real life and they're tested in real life, right? One of the bottlenecks of advancing material science is you don't have time to try gazillions of things so you can get a better metal for your batteries, right? You cannot do it costs too much. Now the computer does all this work, looks at the properties of materials, try to figure things out, again, try to test on the computer, and they say, this looks promising. Let's just take this into the real lab and fabricate and see if it does what it wants. So again, this is one of the best uses. But again, of course, good and bad. And I think we have to understand that in AI, but in most sciences, there's always good side and bad sides, right? There's nothing to prevent a good technology from being used in a bad way. And we have to understand and realize that and figure things out, right? So one of the questions that comes up very frequently is jobs. Are jobs getting lost? And yes, there will be a lot of jobs getting lost. Computer science students are very concerned because many companies now are not hiring them for internships because the companies are trying to figure out, we need to do some AI. We don't know how to do it, but an undergraduate cannot really help too much. They don't have enough knowledge. And many companies think there will be no more programmers. Software engineering jobs will disappear. Now, at this point, we know it's not correct, because what we know is that the programs that generate software make a lot of mistakes. Like you take a junior student and you start learning computer science, the programs are not always correct, right? And slowly people learn, figure out what are the bugs, and fix them. And so the same is happening right now with the automated tools. Things can get better. There's no reason to believe that some number of years from now, the basic software engineering jobs will be gone because you don't need. The computers will generate the code for you. And for anybody who knows a little bit about computer science, there's a lot of low-level code. There's a lot of things, they put in libraries, so they have to repeat them all the time. So they're kind of boring jobs, right? So maybe, again, boring jobs will be done by computers, and maybe more interesting will be done by people. That's what we hope, right? It doesn't happen like this all the time. But hope is to, automate things that nobody really wants to do. I mean, again, computer science students, when they get the degree, the first jobs are boring, right? You have to fix code, written by other people, you don't know what it is. And in fact, it's kind of interesting. I always tell our undergraduates, okay, get a job. When you're bored, come back and get a master's degree or a PhD, right? Because it's true, not all the jobs are interesting. And so again, if those uninteresting jobs disappear, that would be great. But it's not clear that that's what's going to happen, right? So again, it's a little bit, and of course there are predictions, so a lot of numbers of jobs will disappear. Now, we know in general, when some jobs disappear, new jobs will appear, right? So for, I work in robotics. For robotics, we know, you get a robot now, I don't know if you have a robotics vacuum cleaner here, for instance. Now you have more and more, right? The robots can vacuum clean. You don't need a person to vacuum clean. You can have more robots doing things. And you say, oh, but you lose jobs. Yes, but you gain more advanced jobs. Because the robots break. Despite the fact, they're supposed to be good. The robots need software updates. So again, you tend to elevate the kind of jobs, remove some of the manual jobs, and now become more white-collar jobs. Not all of them, right? And in fact, it's interesting, for instance, agriculture, which is an area where workers are very cheap. There's very little robotics. When workers become expensive, then robotics come in, right? There's all the economics laws, right, that affect the world. So, but again, we know in general, again, losing some lower level jobs is not a bad idea as long as we provide some other jobs and we give people opportunities to learn for the more advanced jobs. Because of course, you need to know more for those jobs. So now the question here really is, and this is kind of a question for which really there's not much answer. Where is AI going to go? Is it going really to take over the world? We don't know. There is a lot of kind of uncertainties. And some researchers say, well, we should stop doing AI until we understand. But honestly, this will never happen. And there's a very, very simple reason. There is too much money at stake. Think about how much money Google makes from advertising. Right? I mean, when you search on Google, now, of course, if you search on Google, now one of the large language models responds, right? Did you notice, everybody? They give you an explanation already, and they can give you a summary of papers, right? Because those are models that work. But still, when you do that, there are also advertisements. And Google makes tons of money from advertisement. So anything that impact, I mean, there is too much money into the advertisement market. So that's why this model will never disappear. There is too much money at stake, right? So I think they're here to stay, and lots of companies are hoping to make lots of money by using this model, by changing things. Right now you call a telephone, often you have this pre-recorded blah, 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 blah. Very likely soon you'll have a chatbot that talks with you. Instead of being pre-recorded step, if you want this, push 3. If you want that, push 4, right? It's this usual stuff, and you sit there for an hour waiting for the right number to show up, right? Well, there will be at some point a chatbot, which is a system, it's not a person. They will speak like a person and will ask, what are you looking for? And then they will listen to your answer and figure out what to do, which is nice, right? Assuming they all do things right, it's not a bad thing to do. So again, you are going to see a lot of those things changing, which means think about all the companies that have these automated phone systems. They will all switch at some point to an AI system. So whoever develops those AI systems is going to make money, right? Because everybody wants those systems. Again, when there is a lot of money at stake, things move very quickly in different directions, and we have ways to take this into account. So, what shall we do? Again, my opinion, and of course, everybody's free. Those models are here to stay, so we're not going to get away from them. Academics, when ChatGPT came out 2 years ago, immediately say, you cannot use ChatGPT. Of course, we can talk. Students don't care what we say, right? And they immediately started using ChatGPT. So now slowly, even in academia, we moved from say, do not use ChatGPT, or similar thing. We say, if you use ChatGPT, say that you use it, right? Because it's still kind of important to know the level of understanding of the material a student has. If I ask a student to explain a problem or a solution, well, did ChatGPT explain, or is a student? I want to know, right? And in fact, there are ways of using those large language models in which you prompt them. And so again, typically, the students say, I have this problem. ChatGPT gives an answer. Often there are mistakes. Now you say, no, I don't think this is right. Or can you give me some more information? So if you do a conversation with these models, you end up with much better answers, right? And so that's the kind of things we're interested in doing, right? Because the best is, again, you cannot forbid people from using things. They are too appealing. They're there, they're free. They can use them. Why do they have to spend their time writing, right? But now we can try to teach them how to use them, so they use them in the best way. Right? So again, and there are a lot of applications. I know, for instance, one of my students, I was at a hospital in New York in summer, other people here in the medical school, like you're trying to help like doctors. Let's think about, you're a physician, right? You see patients. And then you have to write some notes, right, on the discussion. And so it's a boring job, right? And not all the doctors know how to do it well. So, but now if you have a system, again, that listen as the doctor talks to the patient, so kind of listen to all the conversation, and then summarizes it in a very nice, well-written form, so the patient gets a nice summary, and the doctor doesn't have to spend time typing things, right? So this, again, there are projects in different hospitals. Again, there are good things that can come out of these systems, but they're not all good things. So now the question really is, what do we need to do? What can we do? And the main things that comes up is ethical issues. As we know, just think as a simple example that most people know, face recognition, when it came out a number of years ago, oh, it's so great, we can recognize faces of people. But then people, do I really want, every time I go on the street, somebody to see my picture and say, this is Maria? I don't want that. And even worse, I mean, I'm sure all of you know, pictures of African American or people of color, they were not recognized as humans. They're considered like monkeys. And that, of course, is what kind of opened the floors. Wow, this system is broken, right? Because why? Because the systems were trained with faces of white people, right? And so if somebody's dark, it looks more like a monkey or whatever else than a person, right? And so again, ethical issues are always important. We always to be aware of mistakes that systems make. They're not intentional. It's not anybody said, don't recognize black people. They are bad people. No, it's just the way the system was trained and nobody thought about. So again, we have to be very, very careful. There are privacy issues. Again, do you want your picture, everybody potentially to know exactly where you are at all times? I don't want, right? And in many cases, airport now, right? They do face recognition. They say, well, we delete the pictures after. But it's a little bit disturbing, at least. I don't like it. It also is lower than going to all. Fairness, again, discriminations. And then there's all the issue, how secure the systems are. Again, if you have a system that gets all your pictures wherever you are, at least it's a guarantee to be really secure, so nobody illegally can get into the system. Well, this is one of the big things we kind of know. It's very easy to break into more systems. So again, do we have any kind of safety? And is there any way for humans to kind of provide oversight on AI systems? And most of those are open questions, but those are all important issues, right, we think about. One quick thing here, which is kind of important. So academia used to be the place where new ideas are developed, and then the companies pick them up and develop them and make products. Now things are opposite, because nobody in academia can develop those models. We don't have the $100 million that they need to train those models. So now we reverse things. The models are created by industry, and we have to use them. And this is going to have some long-term impact on the science, because we have to use something that companies created, not necessarily because of academic interest, because they're looking for making products, right? So typically academia and industry have different objectives and they kind of complement each other, right? That's the way they're being developed. And now things are kind of get upside down, and so we're trying to figure things out. So there are a lot of, I'm not getting into any, there are a lot of potential rules about regulation of AI. I mean, you may have seen, the United States is coming up with rules. And one of the ideas that is kind of important, I don't think is going to fly, is to have some international organization like CERN, which is for nuclear research, which is kind of international center that kind of keep track of everything has to do with nuclear operations, like biological weapons and so, and has also the power to impose fine or if body violates, right? I don't think this will happen. Again, the idea of having agency worldwide that control things and say, if you do this, this is illegal. Is that possible? It's a dream. It's not going to happen, unfortunately, right? And there was, in the AI community, the robotics community, many years ago, there was a lot of discussion on what are called killer drones, which are the drones that drop bombs and kill real people, and they're fully autonomous. And the AI robotics community was trying to push and say this should be illegal, because the Geneva Convention says that a person can kill another person only if he's in danger for his life or in an act of war. So in a war, that's kind of okay, but otherwise it's not. So if I have an autonomous drone that goes and drops a bomb, that's illegal. And there was a big discussion, lots of research, lots of people tried to pass this, didn't make it through. So we see a lot of drones now, of course, from all the countries made, and they're all autonomous. And again, this opens the issue that now, again, we allow a machine to kill people. And is that the right thing? I mean, human life, we kind of know its special values, right? So this is kind of the reality. And again, it's not clear how the AI technology will be really controlled. Now, I have a couple of quick examples, and then I'm going to finish, just to start thinking about something maybe closer. So there are kind of what I call conversational agents, which are programs, again, you can interact with, and they also have kind of not just text, again, those are more like programs in which you have also, you see figure. Let's say, again, your doctor said you a note, you can see the note as a text. But suppose instead you see a short video generated by a computer of your doctor talking with you and reading the notes, right? It's a very different ways of engaging. So there are a lot of those things that happen, and they can be useful. But then they raise a few questions, and I always like a few very, very simple examples, right? So this is, if I talk with a program, should the program that looks like a person, should the program tell me, I am a program? And this came up many, many years ago, before all this frenzy came up. And there was Google. Google has a program called a Google Assistant. And it's, again, one day this program calls a hairdresser to set up an appointment. I mean, many, many years ago, maybe 5 years ago, whatever. Right? Yeah, I don't know now if you even do this. But again, the important things here, there was a big uproar in the AI community because the hairdresser didn't know there was a program talking with her and not a person, right? You pick up the phone, and in general, you expect, if you hear voice, human voice, you expect that doesn't look very systematic, and so it's not a recording. You expect to be a person. And so there was a long, long discussion. Is that right? Should a program disclose, I am a program? And one idea that people use for a little while is to use a synthetic voice. I am a program. I need to reserve, right? So it's obvious you understand it's a program, but people will find it funny. So now you have things in which it's a nice human voice. I am a program. I'm going to do this. I don't know whether it will work, right? So again, this was maybe 5-10 years ago and create a big uproar. Now nobody talks about this anymore. You expect, it doesn't matter, you expect to receiving phone calls soon by some AI system. And you will not know that you're not talking with a person. That seems to be kind of the reality coming up, and we have to decide. And now this last one, which I also kind of find interesting. So, young children don't know how to type, but they can speak, right? They learn to speak before they learn to write or to read. And so again, this is a question, again, came up a number of years ago, and you say, suppose that a kid talks, again, series of talks, and say, well, I mean, is Santa real? Or will Santa bring me present? Whatever kind of sentence. And the question, if it's not a person, right? Because the kid is talking with the program, what should the program answer? And there are a couple of examples here, which is kind of different ways of thinking. In one case, you can say, well, this is something I cannot really talk with you, ask your parents. But there is also maybe some way of making like a joke, say, oh, well, where did it come from? But the real question is, and this is not an open question. Okay, think about young kids. They have access. They love technology, right? You all know. As soon as they can play with a phone or computer, wow, they love because they're fascinated. Who decides when I ask a question what the answer is? Right? Again, think about it. This is a simple case, if you want. But again, came up a few years ago because people were starting thinking, again, we have those tools, and they go into hands of people who don't really have the ability to judge and so on. So are the parents losing control of how they train, how they teach, how they grow their children? Right? And it's going to be more and more. Again, think about all the discussion now on the cell phones in classroom, which I'm sure you've heard about. And there is a different, but the cell phone, any automatic device is very attractive. It's attractive for us. I mean, I'm sure that some of you also love to play, and kids love to play, love to see things. But then again, who controls what goes on? Right? You know, all the social networks, all the stuff, bullying, a lot of bad stuff happening. And who controls it? We are losing control of what we do with our kids. And that's something, I don't have a solution, nobody has a solution, but at least you should think a little bit about it, because this is the direction that technology is taking. And the more you allow voice instead of typing, the younger the kids can be, right? Because they can speak when they're very young, much before they learn to type or so. I'm not saying it's a bad idea, it's just a reality. And we have to figure out what to do, right? And again, so those were kind of interesting examples. But let me just try to finish this quickly. There's still a lot to do. So this is something that was presented at a conference a number of years ago, right? And I just go through quickly. Let's say, you know, in not far future, I will have a robot at home that takes care of children, cooking, doing the laundry. And one night I have to stay at work late. So I call the robot and say, well, can you prepare dinner for my kids? The robot responds, says, sure. Goes to the fridge, and the fridge is empty. So what is the robot going to do? Looks around. Oh, right? Think about. And this, of course, I love this again. I didn't do this, it was a faculty. I love this because in many cultures, you eat cats, right? I mean, again, you know, anytime I see a cat, oh my goodness, it's so lovely, right? I've never think about killing or eating. But in some culture, it's okay. And so this also brings up another issue, that we can't develop technologies kind of more centered on our own culture. And other cultures are different. And the question is, how can people in other culture get whatever they need, which is related to their culture? And I think trying to make the same culture for everybody in the world is a bad idea. I mean, just to finish, the things I love most about, you know, when I joined Minnesota, I didn't know anything about, you know, I came here, my husband is a professor here, we got married, I stay here. But the things I still enjoy is the richness, the diversity of people, right? Richness of cultures, right? Because here, you know, in Italy, at the time I was there, everybody's white. Very, very few immigrants. Now things are a little bit different, right? So you kind of use everybody's like you. And it was a big, still kind of, you know, I'm from northern Italy, so we know how to do things. Southern Italy are the people who sing and dance and don't do anything, right? That's a stereotype, right? But still, it's very similar culture. And when I got here, you know, I started having students from different countries in the classes. Again, I'm not talking about the diversity of colors. To me, diversity of culture. And one of the things I always love, because you all know Italians love food. Food is the most important thing, right? For Italians, it's to be right, it's to be good. And it's a way of sharing information. You know, we never eat alone in Italy. And here, you know, I was shocked when I saw the students sitting with their own whatever, reading a book or using a computer. You know, there's somebody sitting there. Right? So this is culture, right? So again, for Italian, food is a way of sharing information, sharing, talking with others. For other countries, it's different, right? And to me, that's the richness that we have here, right? When you have people from different places, different culture, different backgrounds. You know, somebody told me recently, I don't know if it's true, say, I moved from Indiana to Minnesota, and the food here is different. I don't know what food in Indiana is. But again, you know, to me, food is important because it's something everybody needs it, right? We eat all the every day. And so the culture is different, right? The way we cook, the way we do, and the richness that we have, to me, is critical. But at the same time, it's too easy to think about everybody's like the Americans or the European, the white population. Everybody's exactly the same desire, the same ideas, and that's not true. Think about Africa, I have students from Africa, I talk with them. So again, we have also to take advantage of this technology to make it for everybody. And right now, it's not for everybody. All this technology is English. So if you don't speak English, or Chinese, now, of course, the Chinese taken over a lot. If you don't speak those languages, you're out. And that's, again, is unfair, right? It's unfair to have a large group of people that cannot use this technology because we think everybody knows English, so why should we care about something else? So again, I'm hoping, to kind of give, again, what the future we want. We can think about a lot of different things. But I think, again, to me, the issue is have some control of the technology and make sure that it's useful for everybody. Again, it's not reserved to a few people. It's not reserved, right now it's not going to be reserved only to people who know how to use computers, because now you can talk, right? So you don't need a computer, you don't need to be able to type. But again, there are a lot of things that are kind of at stake. And again, I wrote here a few things, right, of, ideas or issues. And of course, education is going to be a very important area because, we have, starting, of course, not just from college, education, what do we teach children? How do we grow them up? How would expose them to the technology in a way that is not, again, just limited to a few things? Is not only the rich kids, the ones that afford the computer can learn. Again, there are a lot of those things. And if you do something for everybody in the world, that's okay. But if you limit things too much, that's not okay, right? Because you're kind of leaving a big chunk of the population out of opportunities. Okay, so let's end. Questions? Yeah, okay, see, okay. Sure, yes, thanks.
Thank you very much. My question is, what are your reactions to what the Trump administration is doing and saying?
I can tell. All right. I'm going to be careful here. Sorry. So I can say that in the last week I spent hours and hours. I'm part of many national level organizations to widen participation in computing, to do activities for women, for student underrepresented group. We do a lot of mentoring, all this stuff. It's all funded by NSF. Everything is on hold now. So we don't know if we're going to be able to do those activities. And so we had a lot of discussion, right? We have something coming up in 2 months. We bring in graduate students from all the United States and mentor them, help them, talk with them, careers, all this stuff. We don't know. So this is just one small thing. Of course, I don't have any NIH grants, but everybody who has any NIH money, now they're limited overhead to 15%. The university cannot afford to do research only 15%. So either they shut down things, means no more research on, health-related applications. So that's just to mention a couple of examples, not to mention, again, all the canceling, all the diversity activity. I do a summer camp for girls, teach programming, girls at junior high and high school, because I think, again, if people don't know something, they don't make choices. So I want to make sure they know some programming, then they decide, I like or I don't like. But again, lack of knowledge, ignorance is not acceptable. Again, so I do this. I check with the university, say, yes, even if it's only female, you can do it. Because I was afraid. I hope things don't change. So, there are a lot of things. We have no control. We just to figure out what to do. So, thanks for the question, but unfortunately, I don't know if any of you has better answers than I have.
We have one not back here.
Oh, okay, sure.
Hi, Professor. Can you tell me, take me through your day. How do you use AI? How are you using it with your students? How do you use it with yourself?
I don't use it too much myself. Occasionally I try ChatGPT because I wanted to try, right? So I remember I was in the airport a couple of years ago, sitting after a meeting, sitting with a girl I met at this meeting. He said, "Oh, let's try ask ChatGPT what he knows about Maria Gini." I said, "Sure, let's try." Comes up, Maria Gini is a professor. She got her degree at Stockholm, Sweden. Wow, do I look Swedish? I didn't think so. And I was thinking, why I got this answer? And then I thought about why. In Minnesota, there are a lot of people from Swedish origin, right? Sweden, Germany, and so there are not as many Italians. So I'm sure that this, ChatGPT is probabilistic. So you must have seen there were a lot of people somehow, and guess I'm Swedish. So I don't use it too much. But, I'm kind of more, I work with students who are working with large language models, who are using the technology. But, at my level, I have to write proposal, write papers, kick students so they do the work, and I don't have time myself to develop new things. But I have a lot of students working on large language models. So hopefully but for good uses. But yeah.
I have flunked enough do you know which pictures are real tests to know that artificial intelligence has leapt far beyond our ability to know if something's fake or real. Is there any effort to create an artificial intelligence agent that will figure that out for us?
Not that I know of. There have been a lot of efforts to put some kind of markers, right, so that you can, so I've seen, again, they're all experimental. When you get text, you cannot add anything to the text. If you have an image, there are a lot of bits, bytes, lots of numbers there. So you can embed, hide in the image something else, some other information. So one of the proposals that came out from an MIT group is to embed in the image kind of a marker that says, this comes from this. This is the originator of this, or not. It's not really having a lot of traction because it's difficult to do, and then you have to guarantee that the marker cannot be changed, right? Because I put my marker, somebody else can go in and change, right? I mean, you look at all the bits, and you find the ones that say, this came from Maria, and change it comes from someone else. So I don't think anybody's really found a way of tracking if something is fake. And that's unfortunately, because, there is also a distinction between fake intentionally or fake unintentionally. I mean, again, there are different levels of faking things. But again, I have not seen any technology. Again, I've seen a few people looking at the pictures, but text, unless everybody agrees, we kind of put a marker on each PDF file we generate. They say, that's the originator of this. Nobody can change it. There's no way. So it is unfortunate, but I don't think there's any way of checking. So we have to somehow to use humans. Maybe we're still capable. I'm not sure we're capable or not. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Yes.
You spoke about children and their ability to start using this very early. What advice would you give young parents, young families right now who are raising children? They may not have any experience at all in IT, but they're with kids who start talking to Alexa at age 3. What suggestions would you have for them?
Yeah, it's complicated. So I don't have children. I have a niece who lives in London. She has 2 young kids, 4 and 7 years old. I know the kids love, if they can grab her cell phone, they do, and she never allows them to do it. And love to see videos, to see things, to play games. So she has kind of strict time limit. I'm not sure so, they say, no, you can do it now, and now it's time for food, put it away. And, you can do to some point, but you cannot really do in full. And at some point, sometimes the kids learn to sneak behind you. Right? I mean, they're smart, right? And you want kids to be smart, right? They have to learn different things. Otherwise, I cannot remain dumb, right? Do what I tell you. No. They have to explore the world. So I don't know there is any good way. Again, the only thing that I've seen people doing, again, you kind of limit the amount of time in which they can use. But again, as they grow a little bit older, it's going to become harder. So that is a big problem.
Yes, Professor. Occasionally in my use of my computer and the internet, I'm presenting with an algorithm, which you will know has a name, something like CAPTCHA or something. It presents me with a series of images to identify bicycles, cars, buses, motorcycles, whatever, images. And images of distorted text, like sometimes distorted uppercase text, sometimes distorted lowercase text, and to go through that and prove I'm not a robot. What do you think? Is that already outmoded? Is there now bots that can defeat that?
I mean, that's has been around for a very long time, right? As a technology came out from Carnegie Mellon University, from a faculty there. And the idea is, again, you show a picture, and then you ask people to click, right? And it's used very often as kind of a way of authenticating that you are a person. It's not 100% fail proof, because you could still think about writing a program, but I don't think people really care much about. But this is kind of old technologies, kind of before kind of those generative models. I don't know that anybody else has come up with something else. Again, it's a simple-minded technology that allows to do a little bit of filtering, like when you're trying to log in on a site. I don't know. Now I think, to verify people, that the current technology is to use like dual authentication, right? Which again, doesn't guarantee, but again, you have to put a phone number or something. You have to pick up the phone, and then you say, okay, it's you. Now, I could, at some point, have a robot that picks up the phone for me, right? Somebody could have an automated system. Right now, it's still reasonable. It's used, most companies use university, and so most of the technologies have to change over time as the capability of the systems increases. So it's not that you say, I have a solution and it's good forever, unfortunately. So we need, people that are smart, that they think about, and they can develop new technology, they can understand what things are, and they have a good sense of what to develop, because the hardware is changing all the time, right? Think about your phone now is much more powerful than the computer used 50 years ago by, when people started writing AI programs. So the phone is so powerful, you could do a lot of stuff. And so people can do, it becomes harder and harder, right? But we really want, one thing I always tell my students, I say, first, I trust you're honest, because I cannot check if you're honest. And the moment when you get out and get a job, you can do a lot of damage, right? Computer scientists can break systems very easily. It's not too difficult. And so I say the only thing that you have is your honesty, your integrity. And I never ask for justification. I never ask for doctor notes, because they're fake. They can be faked. I say, you tell me you have to visit a doctor. Okay, I trust you. And I know, I talk with many students. I think for some of them at least it resonates. They say, okay, you have to be honest yourself, because you cannot otherwise guarantee that the person is honest. And I think it's becoming more and more the case. So I think kind of, education, I was mentioning earlier, the love in general students here in Minnesota, they tend to have a more down-earth education, more honest, right? They're not flamboyant, like some people from East or West Coast. They think they're the best in the world. They're more solid, and I think, again, comes from tradition here in the state, right? I mean, a family care about the kids, and they're educated. And I think, again, at the end, individual virtual properties that people have are the only ones that will survive, right? You can fake everything. But if you think, no, I'm honest, I'm not faking, that saves the world. And again, so I'm hoping, again, the state here will remain the way it is. Because, again, it's very nice to have students. I have often students that, again, tell me, oh, I did this wrong. It's, okay, tell me, fine, don't do it again. I don't want to lie. I don't want people get into the habit that they're lying to protect themselves. Because that gives these bad habits that never remain forever in life. And honesty, we figure out what to do. But, it's difficult, and not everybody has it. But, I keep on harping with them.
Professor Gini,
Sure,
we've
sure.
got a couple comments from the online.
Oh, sure, yeah.
From Ken, he says, I don't think industry will regulate itself. There will have to be public or government oversight with strong regulations. They have to be administered non-politically, kind of like the Federal Reserve model. He continues, there will be many new lawyer jobs. In addition to ambulance chasers, there will now be AI harm chasers.
Yeah, I mean, the need for regulation is complicated. So the European Union has a stronger regulation on AI than US has. US has some regulations. At the world level, there are some regulations. The problem always with regulation, you also need an enforcing mechanism. And I don't think there are real enforcing mechanism right now. And again, you let the company kind of regulate themselves, which is okay, but up to a limit, because, if I do this, I get billions of dollars. If I don't, I don't. And, the power of money, unfortunately, is always there. So I don't know. There's still a lot of debate on regulation. Maybe at some point it will kind of converge to something. Yeah, sure.
Question back here.
Hi. I was thinking about the term artificial intelligence, and for me, the opposite would be authentic intelligence. And to be authentic, for me, is to be in touch with my senses. The 7 wonders of the world is to see, hear, taste, touch, smell, love, and laugh. And what scares me most is that computers, like, say they go to sleep and they wake up and they see you and they're taking over our senses. And that when we're at a computer, we lose track of time and we lose track of our body functions. And I guess my question is, how can we stop or slow that down, just like powering everything down for a weekend or something like that?
I mean, think of the society, like history. Like, think about when the first car, the first engines came out. Think about at the time, right? At the time, there was a big revolution, right? Because the jobs are changing. When you start industries, so when you start again different ways of transportation, and kind of people adapted and survived. The question is, so this change is here. There's no way of pushing it back. Not just AI, it's all the computing technology. There's a lot of technology that AI kind of pushes the boundaries, but it's still, computers control our life in many cases. Whatever we do, again, rarely you talk with a person, you talk with a program, and we always have to deal with these things. So the question is how we will adjust. And will the adjustment, again, be kind of fair or not? And that's the part we don't know. Right? Again, think about industrial revolution at the end was useful, right? Because at the end it produced new jobs, new stuff, better quality of life. You can grow more food. I mean, lots of things. But it can also go bad, and we don't know, right? Because we come up with something new, and hopefully, again, all the people who are kind of involved have some sense, and they will try to develop things for the better. But a lot of things will have to change. Clearly, the education level. In a few years, the students that come even to elementary school will be different, right? And so everybody has to adapt and figure out what to do. And I don't think anybody knows. I mean, we're thinking about a lot of things, but we're not there yet. And we'll have to adapt, hopefully.
Professor Gini, your last slide was mentioning some of the things that we have to be concerned about, or one of your,
Sure, yeah.
So tell me what, in your department and the department heads, when they meet, are you already maybe talking about, since there's not going to be the millions of dollars possibly coming forth to generate new AI programming, what about the applications where we see these gaps? Do you talk about, or do you see where, hey, maybe we can start teaching more cybersecurity. Maybe we can start teaching people the regulatory possibilities or things that we can do to ensure AI is safe. Is that now in the discussions?
Sure. There is a lot of discussion even at the university level. There's, faculty groups, and so start thinking, how do we use, right now, again, students use ChatGPT all the times. We kind of know that, right? How do we use it in a profitable way? How do we change the way we teach? And in computer science in particular, we're trying to think about, again, the first computer science class, you teach a programming language, and you teach how to think about, right? How to decompose problem into pieces and how to put them together. The students write very short programs right now. Copilot will write for them. So we are trying to figure out, what do we do? So we're going to do more stuff in person, right? So instead of giving them an assignment, you go home and you write a program. You're in class here, write a program. So we can see that they're doing. Because you cannot learn unless you practice, right? If you see a program already written, oh, yeah, I understand. But you have to think yourself, given this problem, how do I decompose? So again, we're going to push more to in-person activities, which are problematic because many classes are large. You know, I teach an undergraduate AI class this semester, 175 students. I have lots of TAs. I don't know all the students, right? I will never learn all the names, all the faces. So again, we're trying to do more things again in person, but I don't know, we're trying to sort things out, but there is multiple groups at the university discussing this. So again, this is going to change education clearly.
We've got time for one more question, and I think it's going to come from online, one of our online participants. Sorry about that. So we have Diana W. asking if you could comment on environmental impacts of AI, data centers, demand for electric power.
Right, yeah. I had the slides earlier in this that showing the power consumption, but then I said it's not up to date, and the power consumption is going up a lot. Now, there is kind of good news in a sense. I mean, if you all heard about the Chinese company, DeepSeek, that just came out a week ago, the day when the market crashed. NVIDIA stock lost a lot in the market because they come out with a system that is very similar to ChatGPT, similar properties, was trained at a fraction of the cost. And so immediately say, okay, you don't need NVIDIA chip, right? NVIDIA provides all the chips. So the stock crashed that day, then came up again. But that shows that in fact there are ways of training models, not from scratch. Apparently what they've done there, they took some of the answer from OpenAI systems, and then they re-examine and remove them. So I think there will be ways of saving some of the money. So again, the environmental impact may decrease, but still, there will be a lot of energy that is used. Yes, this is still a problem. Yeah, good questions. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Professor Gini. We really, really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. Do you want to?
Thanks for all the good questions. I always love to have questions. Thanks. Yep. Okay, let me get out of here. Oops. Sorry. Oops. Take my stuff out of the way. It's okay.
Yes, that was a wonderful presentation. And one of our online people asked if you wouldn't tell the president about your honesty and integrity policy.
On Friday, there's a board of region meetings, and I've been invited because I got this national award. So there's a meeting of the board of region. So the president invited me to go before the meeting there at the board of region. So if I have a chance, I will tell them. Right?
Right. Our upcoming third age programs are March 12th, next month, Memory Loss and Dementia, Maintaining Brain Health and 10 Warning Signs. That's put on by the Alzheimer's Association. And then in May, What Happens When We Die? How to Plan Ahead. We've got a funeral director, Michael Sorrell, who's been with us, I think, about 4 years ago and did an excellent job. He will be back again, as will David Shin. So I invite you to come to those programs. I understand that Johanna Shore's retirement home and a Presbyterian's home have been shut down to COVID-19 and the flu. So we are going to ask that you sanitize your hands before you grab food today. We don't want to spread anything here. There is a sanitizer down just past the cash check-in.
Let's move that to the food line.
Okay.
Thanks, Carol.
Oh, I see it. And then I want to be the first to wish you a happy Valentine's Day on Friday. And we do have a Valentine's Day a little poem here called Valentine's Smile. On Valentine's Day, we think of those who make our lives worthwhile, those gracious, friendly people we think of with a smile. I am fortunate to know that's why I want to say to a rare and special person, Happy Valentine's Day. And now, Margaret, if you'd lead us in prayer before lunch, and then we can get started eating.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you for that lovely Valentine's poem. That I appreciate the joy of this third age community. And I just am so grateful to the committee for putting together such an incredible season. We hope that those of you online, those of you in person, will come to subsequent Third Age events. It's one of my favorite ministries that I get to be involved in here in Westminster. And thank you again, Professor Gini, for your talk. There was a lot in there that was exciting and a lot in there that was sobering, especially some of the ways that we seem to be making AI in the worst of our image as well as the best. And so I'm so grateful for a chance to come together as a community and really grapple with these questions under your leadership. Thank you for that. Let us pray. Gracious and loving God, we thank you for this chance to be together, to learn and grow together, to be in community with one another. We give you thanks for the food that is before us, for all who prepared it and brought it here. Help it to nourish and sustain us in our conversations and connections. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Please begin at the hand sanitizing station and go ahead through the lunch line. If you haven't had a chance to pay the $5 suggested cost, you're able to do so with Scott up there.